I don't think I want this, Manasseh admitted, his voice quiet but firm. I don't know how to be one of them. Joseph exhaled, leaning forward. I understand. He saw the weight pressing down on his sons, the uncertainty, the fear of stepping into a role they had not asked for. Slowly, he reached for his cup again, turning it in his hands. When I was your age, he said, I did not know how to be a brother either. Ephraim frowned. What do you mean? Joseph met his gaze. I had dreams, he said, his voice steady. Dreams that I would one day rise above my brothers. I did not ask for those dreams. I did not want to be set apart. But Elohim had already chosen my path. The room was quiet. Joseph continued, his voice gentle. When my brothers sold me into slavery, I thought I had lost my place in the family forever. He looked at them both carefully. But Elohim never lost sight of me, and he has not lost sight of you. Ephraim and Manasseh exchanged glances. Joseph reached for his son's wrist, gripping it gently. Do not fear this blessing, he said. It is an honor, not a burden. Ephraim exhaled, his fingers tapping against the table. I still don't know how to lead them. Joseph smiled slightly. Then learn, he said. Watch them. Listen. Speak only when necessary. Leadership is not about standing above them. It is about knowing when to stand beside them. Manasseh exhaled, looking down at his hands. Asenath, watching them all carefully, finally spoke. You are still young. No one expects you to know everything now. Joseph nodded. But one day, when the time comes, you will be ready. Ephraim and Manasseh still looked unsure, but the weight on their shoulders seemed lighter. A knock at the door interrupted the moment, and a servant stepped inside. My lord, the man bowed, addressing Joseph. Pharaoh has been informed that you will seek an audience. You may come when you're ready. Joseph nodded. Thank you. The servant withdrew. Joseph turned back to his sons. It's time for you both to go to your lessons, he said. Ephraim opened his mouth as if to protest, then thought better of it. Manasseh sighed but stood. Asenath watched as the boys reluctantly rose from the table. Ephraim lingered a moment longer before nodding at Joseph. Thank you, Father, he said, his voice quiet. Joseph nodded in return, then departed, leaving Joseph and Asenath alone. She studied him for a moment before finally saying, You did well. He let out a long breath, rubbing his temples. I pray it will be enough. Asenath reached for his hand. It will be. For now, it was all they could do. And then Joseph stood, his mind shifting from his sons to the duty ahead. It was time to go to Pharaoh. The back hallway. The palace grounds stirred with the quiet hum of dawn. Servants swept the courtyards, the rhythmic scrape of reeds against stone blending with the faint murmur of scribes exchanging morning reports. A pair of guards passed by, their sandals tapping against the marble as they changed shifts. Beyond them, the towering palace walls bore the unyielding gaze of gods and kings, their painted faces frozen in eternal watchfulness. Joseph did not take the main hall. He could not today. There had never been a time he could not walk directly into Pharaoh's presence until now. His morning robe, unadorned, its hem still stained with the dust from the night before, was at odds with the brilliance of Pharaoh's court. His hair, uncombed, hung loosely over his shoulders, a stark departure from the polished state required of a royal official. The customs of Egypt forbade grief in the presence of the divine ruler. No man in mourning could stand before Pharaoh, lest sorrow mar the sacred order of Ma'at. Mourning was viewed as disorder, too human, too unpredictable for the palace of a living God. The priests upheld this separation strictly, guarding both Pharaoh's image and their power. So Joseph slipped through the lesser halls, his path weaving through the shadowed corridors few men of his rank ever walked. Here, the world was quieter, the air cooler, the footfalls of the palace echoing in solitude. The torchlight flickered against the smooth stone, casting elongated shadows that bent and stretched like silent watchers. A passageway branched off to the right, one that was familiar. It led to the rear of the throne hall, an entrance reserved for high officials and royal kin who sought private counsel. Joseph pressed his hand to the cool frame of the doorway before stepping inside. Confrontation with Nefer-Ra. The chamber was dim, its walls adorned with muted murals of Pharaoh's conquests, their once vibrant hues softened by age and flickering lamplight. A thick woven rug covered the floor, its fibers worn beneath the weight of those who had waited here before him. Generals, scribes, noblemen. Joseph sank onto a low bench, but the comfort of the cushions did nothing to ease the heaviness in his chest. His father was gone. The weight of mourning pressed upon him, but there was no time to be consumed by it. He had come to petition Pharaoh for permission to bury his father in the land of his ancestors. But he would not see Pharaoh today. Custom dictated that Pharaoh could not look upon one in mourning. It was a sign of impurity. Instead, it would be the high priest who would receive him, standing as intermediaries between Joseph and the throne. Joseph exhaled, his jaw tightening. That meant dealing with Nefer-Ra, the high priest of Amun. Few men in Egypt dared to show him open hostility, but among them the priest stood at the forefront. Ever since he had interpreted Pharaoh's dreams, the court magicians had regarded him with contempt. Joseph had proven them to be powerless. He had done in moments what they, with all their spells and secret arts, had failed to do. His rise had been swift, and though Pharaoh favored him, the priests had never forgotten how he had humiliated them. A rustling at the entrance made him lift his head. Nefer-Ra entered, his robes flowing in heavy folds of white and gold, the sacred leopard-skin mantle of his office draped over one shoulder. His kohl-rimmed eyes, sharp and unreadable, locked onto Joseph's with the calculating gaze of a man who carried centuries of tradition in his blood. For a moment, neither spoke. Then, in a voice smooth as polished stone, Nefer-Ra broke the silence. His fingers brushed the edge of a gold amulet as he spoke, as though invoking unseen powers. "Joseph, vizier of Egypt," he intoned, his words measured, deliberate. "Why have you come before the gods in mourning?" Joseph recognized the slight at once. He was not in the presence of the gods. He was in the presence of men. But Nefer-Ra, like all the high priests before him, considered himself more than a mere servant of the divine. Joseph did not rise to the challenge of the insult. This was not the time or place to start a fight. "I come on behalf of my father," he said, his voice calm and steady. "I seek Pharaoh's permission to take him home to the land of Canaan, to bury him in the tomb of our ancestors." Nefer-Ra studied him, his expression unreadable. Then, ever so slightly, he smiled. "Pharaoh has already spoken," he said smoothly. "The mourning for your father will last 70 days, as is custom. It would be improper to hasten the process. Would your father not be honored to receive the burial rites of Egypt?" The words were careful, laced with hidden meaning. Joseph knew this game well. They were testing him. "It is not our way," he replied evenly. "My father gave me his final command, and I intend to see it carried out." Nefer-Ra watched him for a long moment, then inclined his head in acknowledgement. "Very well," he said. "I will take your request to Pharaoh. You will have your answer soon." Joseph bowed his head slightly, but did not look away. He could not see the disdain in the priest's eyes, the cold amusement lurking beneath his carefully measured expression. But this was neither the time nor the place to confront him. Nefer-Ra turned and left the chamber, his robes trailing behind him like the shadow of a vulture. The gathering of the priests. Nefer-Ra stepped into the inner halls of the temple, where the flickering torchlight cast wavering shadows across the sacred pillars. Several priests, their robes pristine and their expressions solemn, gathered as he entered. "The Hebrew seeks permission to bury his father," Nefer-Ra said smoothly, his voice carrying through the dim chamber. "Pharaoh will allow it." The murmurs of the priests rose at once. "Let him go," one said. "He will leave, and in time he will fade from Pharaoh's favor." Nefer-Ra's gaze flickered to him, cold and sharp. "No," he said. "If he leaves, he must not return." A hush fell over the room. "He has ruled too long," another priest muttered. "The people seek his judgment over ours. He is a Hebrew, and yet Pharaoh calls him his own. We should have ended his influence years ago. We shall correct that mistake," Nefer-Ra said. There was a long silence before one of the younger priests stepped forward hesitantly. "Here, within Pharaoh's walls, he is untouchable. But if he journeys beyond—" Nefer-Ra's lips curled into a slow, deliberate smile. "Yes, outside of Egypt, on the road to his father's tomb, he will not have Pharaoh's hand to protect him. He will be vulnerable. The wilderness is treacherous. Accidents happen. An arrow, a stray blade, a fall from his chariot. The desert does not return the dead," one of the priests murmured. Nefer-Ra inclined his head. "Exactly." A ripple of approval passed through the gathered priests. The plan was set. They would allow him to leave, but he would never return. Permission secured. Back in the waiting chamber, Joseph sat in silence. His mind was weary, the grief still fresh, but he knew he would soon have his answer. A servant entered, bowing low. "My lord, the high priest has confirmed your petition with Pharaoh. You may return home." Joseph nodded and stood. He could still feel the weight of Nefer-Ra's gaze, the thinly veiled disdain behind his words. There was something about the exchange that unsettled him, though he could not yet place why. Outside Egypt, his titles held little significance. He had faced hostile kings before, men who resented Pharaoh's reach and Joseph's influence, and now he would travel far from Pharaoh's shadow. Still, this was no time for suspicion. He turned and left the chamber, stepping into the open air where his chariot awaited him. The road to Machpelah had been secured. His father would be buried with honor, and in the shadows of the temple, unseen hands moved into place, ready to strike. The taking of Israel's body. The tent was heavy with grief. Ashes dusted the ground where Jacob's sons sat, their garments torn, their faces streaked with sorrow. Outside, the wailing of women carried on the desert wind, mourning for the great patriarch who had led them, who had once wrestled with God himself. Inside, Reuben sat rigid, His fingers clenched into the fabric of his torn robe. The others, Judah, Levi, Simeon, and the rest, spoke in murmurs, their voices laced with disbelief, with sorrow, and with something deeper, something unspoken. Near the entrance, Zilpah, the quiet servant who had once been Leah's handmaid, stood still, her hands folded in front of her. Beside her, Dinah remained silent, her eyes fixed on the body of her father. Then the priests came. Their arrival was marked by a hush, a subtle shifting of weight as the brothers turned their heads. The Egyptians, clad in their pristine white linen, walked with measured steps. Their golden collars and bald heads gleamed in the dim light of the morning tent, symbols of their office and purity. To touch the dead was the sacred duty of the priestly caste, bound by ritual and rank. Their arrival marked more than honor, it marked control. Reuben stood swiftly, his grief sharpening into anger. "What are they doing here?" His voice cut through the silence, rough as a blade. One of the priests, an older man with deep-set eyes, bowed slightly before speaking. "We come in the orders of the Grand Vizier, your brother Joseph." The name was like stone dropped into a still pond. A tension rippled through the tent. Reuben hated that he had no authority to stop them. He was the firstborn, but it was Joseph they obeyed. "We have been sent to prepare your father's body according to the rites of Egypt," the priest continued. "Your brother has commanded that he be honored as a great one among us." Reuben's jaw clenched. He glanced at his brothers, but it was Judah who spoke next. "This is not our way." "It is the way of kings," the priest countered, his tone gentle, as if speaking to a grieving child. "Joseph has given his command." The brothers were silent. What could they say? Joseph had the Pharaoh's ear. He had saved them from famine, given them a home in Egypt. How could they deny him this final tribute to their father? And yet, it was not their custom. Finally, Levi exhaled sharply. "Take him, then." The priests moved forward with reverence, their hands precise as they lifted Jacob's body onto a linen-draped bier. Dinah watched without a word. Her face revealed nothing, but her fingers curled slightly at her sides. Zilpah, too, remained still, though a quiet sadness touched her aged features. As the Egyptians carried Jacob away, disappearing into the golden light beyond the tent's openings, the brothers sat back down. Their father was gone. "This is not how it should be," Naphtali muttered, "as if he were an Egyptian." Dan added, shaking his head. "He will not remain in their land," Judah said firmly. "Joseph swore to us that he would bring our father back to Canaan." The murmurs of agreement were subdued, laced with uncertainty. Reuben looked down at the ashes on his hands. "Our father should have remained here with us until burial. But now he lies among foreigners." "He is not with them," Levi murmured. "He is with our ancestors, with Abraham, with Isaac. His soul is not in Egypt." The brothers fell into silence once more. Outside, the sound of Egyptian chants drifted through the air, a foreign rhythm to ears that had only ever known the prayers of their fathers. Zilpah turned to Dinah, and for the first time spoke. "Even when you belong to two peoples, death will always remind you where you come from." Dinah said nothing, but she did not look away.
You've been listening to the Moses Chronicles Prelude, narrated by M. McIntosh. To explore the full audiobook, purchase it in digital or printed form, or discover companion writings, visit moseschronicles.com. For more sacred fiction, subscribe and journey with us through promises, exile, and deliverance. New chapters are released weekly. Until then, may the quiet still speak.